All units of time and measurement have been translated to human standard. Day of first contact. Exploration ship of the Galactic Federation, Captain Log. We arrived at GT3G2 9027 at 0930 ship time on 1839812 of the galactic time. The system was a G-type star, with 3 terrestrial bodies orbiting it, and 2 gas giants. We detected immense communication on the radio spectrum, with systems having heavy space infrastructure on all planets, with dozens of hydrogen platforms on both gas giants, and tens of thousands of communication satellites, with our sensor VI estimating there were hundreds of thousands more that we have yet detected. Even at the Oort cloud, which is the closest our warp drive could get us to the star gravity well, thousands of space stations of unknown make and use were detected seconds after we warped in. In addition, thousands of fusion torches were detected just in the Oort cloud, with tens of thousands more in the system. After a few hours of broadcasting on the radio band, what we presumed was an official message by the local government was received with orbital information of the third planet. We assumed that they sent us data of where they wanted us to park, to have an exchange of information. We used our fusion torch to get to the coordinates, and in 28 days, we were in orbit of the planet. It was non-habitable. Only 0.1 atmosphere, made up of 80% carbon dioxide, with the rest made of deadly gas or toxins. The magnetic field of the planet is not strong enough to protect it against solar radiation, even if for unknown reasons current radiation is well below the expected level, making it a non-issue. No life on the planet, completely barren, save for city lights on the dark side. The temperature during the day is 10 degrees, and minus 73 during the night, and gravity is 0.6 g. Current theory: the species boasts an exotic biology, making such a hellish world habitable. In the meantime, we exchanged basic information from the standard first contact protocol, and after an additional 14 days, basic communication was achieved. We got in contact with the local governor of the star system, and the following will be a recording of the discussion, as writing what followed in words would be beyond my skills. Start of recording. Wow, you are actual aliens, right? This ain't some trillionaire doing a prank again? Said a humanoid. It had pale skin, with a tuft of fur on the top of its head, bipedal with 2 arms. Yes, we are actual aliens. I am to assume you have yet to make contact with any other intelligent life forms? He asked. Ah, no we haven't, but we only colonized 9 solar systems, excluding our home system, and explored a few others with automated ships with quantum communicators. Now for introductions. I'm Anderson, local star governor of Tyrese Colony, and we are humans of Earth, the human Anderson said. I am Rysid, captain of the exploration ship of the Galactic Federation. Did you say colony? Is this system not your home system? He asked. Ah, gods no. We're the newest colony of the Terran Federation. This colony is barely 50 years old. Our homeworld, Earth, is about 130 light years away from here. Say, we didn't detect your exhaust plume until you came into the system, and no matter what we try, it's like you guys pop up on the edge of the system. Did you use a magnetic cell to slow down or what? The human said. For the record, I was experiencing serious confusion as to what the human said. Magnetic sail? What even is that? What does a sail have to do with magnetism? And exhaust plume? Why were they warping further away to get into the system? Why would you see our exhaust plume beyond the solar system? We didn't use it, we simply warped to the edge of the solar system. Am I to assume that your warp drives are more sensitive to gravity fields? Warp drive? Please wait, the human said, suddenly confused and very serious. He went out of the field of view of the camera, and arguing could be heard in the background. After a few minutes he came back. Am I to assume that this warp drive bends space in a way to go faster than light? The human asked. Well, of course. It's the only way to go FTL and thus go to another star system. The only other known methods of FTL are wormholes, but those would require negative energy to fit a spaceship, he said. And do you have artificial gravity that is not generated through spin gravity? The human asked. Well, of course we have artificial gravity. We are not primitive to the point of spinning to generate pseudo-gravity, he said. I'm going to have to send a message to my government. What you bring will revolutionize our species as a whole. Are you authorized to make trade deals? The human said. I was, once again, confused. Humans have colonized numerous solar systems. Yes, in a very long time, they colonized a few systems. But if they are all on the same level of infrastructure or more, then it does not matter. But yet they say that artificial gravity and warp drive would revolutionize their civilization? How bad was their gravity manipulation tech? I am not authorized to make trade deals, only exchange information for further diplomats to use. How bad is your FTL technology for you to want ours so badly? He asked. Well, that's the thing. We don't have FTL, the human said. This joke is not funny. Why do you want our artificial gravity and warp drive technology? He asked again, losing patience at the useless joke of the human. I'm not joking. We truly do not have FTL. If you do not believe me, we got an incoming interstellar ship coming in. You can see how we operate and work without it, the human said. End of recording. As much as I wanted to deny this obvious lie to stall time for whatever reason, I obliged. I informed my superiors of our discovery and current situation to prepare a diplomatic team for negotiations. 3 days later, we were given a warning to stay out of the zone for the next month. I did not understand why, but did as told, and assembled the ship's science team for observation. This, apparently, was the first step to slow down the ship using a laser sail, whatever that was. At 1200, a bright purple light appeared. It was a laser array, kilometers in diameter, built on the second planet. It is so powerful that the dust in the solar system reflected enough light to be detected, plus the small amount of it that was reflected by the mirrors to their ship's sensor. The team estimated that the laser had enough energy to vaporize their ship in minutes. Such a thing would require enormous amounts of energy, and yet it fired. For 1 whole month. Then they saw it. The exhaust plume was so big, they were larger than the ship, which itself was 12 kilometers long. Yes, you read that right. 12 kilometers long. The ship used an antimatter catalyzed fusion torch, which used the antimatter to enhance a proton-proton fusion torch to start more fusion processes, which resulted in a final exhaust velocity of 0.7 c with a force of 250,000 tons each. The ship weighs surprisingly only 750,000 tons, with only 50,000 tons of it being cargo. The sail. We saw it retracted once the laser stopped firing. It was literally that, a sail. Made of hyper-reflective material only 20 molecules thick and 40 kilometers in diameter. The force of the photons being reflected was enough to slow the ship from 0.99 c to 0.5 c. Then the ship fired its engine for 2 weeks, before arriving in orbit around the planet. They also didn't have plasma shields. They survived near-sea impacts from dust and nanometeorites, with 6 armor plates spaced 200 meters from each other. The plates themselves are made from an unknown mix of composite and alloys. This type of armor they call a Whipple shield. The first plate turns any impacts into smaller fragments, which are also instantly turned into plasma by the sheer energy of the impact. The second one has an additional magnetic field to spread the plasma on a bigger area, and again it goes into smaller fragments. This repeats until it hits and stops at the fourth plate, with the last 2 as backup. To say that I and the crew were stunned would be an understatement. We also learned the following. They do not have an exotic biology, and use the same carbon-based one of all galactic species. Before they even went to another system, they colonized all of their solar system. Not in the sense that they were multiple habitable planets, but in the sense that what is considered desolate and an uninhabitable world are still colonized. Their city and living conditions are the same as on orbital stations. They even tried to convince us they somehow colonized 2 gas giants, which we of course didn't believe, as such a thing is impossible. They have had interstellar wars with themselves, without FTL, 3 times. I don't think I need to explain further. My recommendation? Do not anger them. They lack the technology that they should have, but instead of making FTL, they explored and colonized other systems before they gained the capability to generate artificial gravity. Their technology would not be said to be primitive. In fact, it is in all aspects equal to or better than ours, but they lack other fields like plasma shields and the obvious FTL and artificial gravity, for now. They are incredible engineers and make do with their constraints. 400 years ago, in 2114 of their year, they colonized their whole solar system in less than 100 years, and sent the first interstellar ship to their closest star at only 10% the speed of light. They didn't have shields, and instead make do with physical armor plates, spaced by 100 meters. They even managed to make true artificial intelligence. Yes, they did it, but not like we tried. While we tried and failed to make a computer gain intelligence, they simply grew cloned brain cells into a special container that connects the brain to computers. I cannot even begin to say how insane and unethical that is. They assure me that their artificial intelligence has rights, and are considered a member of their species, which is technically the case, as they have the same brain, just not the rest of it. End of report. 23 years later, Chancellor Alcor. "Are you completely insane?" I asked. "They're primitive. They didn't have plasma weapons, only 14 systems, and had no experience with war. They have never declared war on any galactic species, so they lack experience. I don't see what the problem is here," the other Chancellor Dalmor said. "You are going on a war that borderlines genocide. For what? Them refusing to be your species' slave empire? Why do you even need them? The galaxy is big enough as it is. And who cares? We demanded their better resources and they refused. They are only upstart primates that got to the galactic stage 20 years ago. We have been here for more than 100. Dalmor shouted through the screen. "That's not it! You refused to sign the Geneva Convention. That thing has been a thing for them for 600 years. Nothing in galactic politics stayed for that long, and you couldn't think that maybe there was a reason for why their convention lasted so long," I said. He was right, but only because he was an idiot who never looked at the human file. Although most of the first contact information had been censored, the fact that they colonized 9 solar systems without FTL and had interstellar war did get out. "Who has rules for war? War is war. Why can't we use asteroids to bombard civilian centers or green worlds? Or why can we use poison gas? We have it, we are going to use it. Why else would we invent such things?" Dalmor said. And although he would have agreed with him 30 years ago, he knew the humans. Better than anyone. He was aboard the first diplomatic ship. Not the official, but the real first. They went to their homeworld, and he saw their system. It made any core world system look like some new, faraway backwater colony. They had billions of solar platforms harvesting the solar energy of their star. Heck, when he was last there, they were constructing an engine powered by their Dyson swarm to move their star system, which would have allowed them to keep their star from moving away from their colonies, which in millions of years would have moved away from them, and made them lose control over them. He also saw their museum on their war. Interstellar, slower than light war. Warships were kilometers long, with interstellar relativistic kinetic missiles. They were weapons to wage war in the interstellar void, at a significant fraction of the speed of light, knowing full well that only one or none of the two sides would win the fight, and that entire generations would be born before the war was finished. Hell, they colonized gas giants. They built floating rings around a gas giant that is stationary and stays in orbit, by having a superconducting ring going faster than orbital speed inside the bigger ring, and then using electromagnets to support the stationary rings. All of this, at a specific height, they get their homeworld's gravity, plus multiple planets' worth of living area. And they did that twice on each of their 2 gas giants. All of this because they lacked artificial gravity, and because they could. Their discoveries were so enormous that their government made all diplomats and crew of the ship swear an oath of secrecy, and made a second diplomat team act as the first. Dalma, I'm going to be dead serious right now. If you go to war and you refuse to sign the Geneva Convention, you are committing genocide on your species, he told him. So seriously, that Dalma actually paused. I can't do that. The decision is final, and we have millions of warships capable of FTL. What's the worst that can happen? Worst case, we lose 1 million ships and it's a stalemate. No big deal, Dalma told him, before cutting the call. If only you knew the mistake you have made, he told himself, staring at a black screen. 10 years after the declaration of war. It is official. The humans have won. In the most unexpected way possible, 6 months after the start of the war, the humans managed to hit every trod world, all 1,423 of them, with a missile the size of a small ship going at 99.999% the speed of light, which even ignited the atmosphere of some worlds, but all were turned into blazing hot worlds covered in lava. It is as of yet unknown how they managed to get an object to such speed, or how the missile got into the system, as there was no ship detected. The leading theory is that they strapped an FTL engine to the missile, which would be inexplicably expensive. The initial push with the 200,000 ship armada of the Trods was annihilated at one of the human colonies, which had 10,000 ships of their own. They used magnetic weapons such as railguns and coil guns to accelerate projectiles from several hundreds of kilometers per second to 5% the speed of light. This, alongside copious amounts of what they called Kazaba howitzer missiles and many more without shields. This goes without saying. This is the single worst naval battle engagement in recorded history. This continued for 4 years, where any attempt to push into the human system was defeated, with millions of ships being lost. The early strike that killed all trod worlds made it impossible to make more ships fast enough, and the lack of leadership, as most were killed, left the fleets with inexperienced admirals. But their number of ships kept increasing at an alarming rate, orders of magnitude more than they had any right to be. Estimates say that humans were building thousands of ships every month across their control systems. This would require them to have tens of thousands of shipyards, which previously would have been doing nothing. But at the start of the 4th year, 20 Trod systems were invaded by 100 ships, each 8 kilometers long. Yes, you heard me right, 8 kilometers long. These then started to bombard the inner system of all their defenses, with missiles and their heavier kinetic weapons, before unleashing thousands of ships each. These attacked all military vessels in the system, not being embedded in their advance from the lack of any defense station or platform, which had been pulverized by the larger ship's weapons. Then the next 20 systems the month after. Then after. Then in the 5th year, they were assaulting 100 systems with 100 of their Titanic ships each. Then more every 5 months. Today, all 8,894 Trod systems have been invaded and wiped out. The Trod species is now endangered, with only 700 billion out of the 1,300 trillion they used to be. All systems have been claimed by the Terran Federation, with each one now being colonized at an astonishing speed, in part due to the numerous artificial intelligences they have. Yes, you heard me right. The Terrans have true, genuine sapient artificial intelligence. As you can imagine, all governments of the galaxy are having a very rough time with all of those events. Even though the humans technically did not violate any laws, they are still trying to enact sanctions on the humans out of fear, for it is now clear that even with lesser technology, the humans prove to be the new superpower of the Milky Way. Stay tuned to Gary's News, for the future is uncertain, but we will be the first to report to you. the announcer said. And just as quickly, the news switched to an advertisement for donations for the Trot refugees.